Mitch looked at a waiter saying, "A beer for the lady, please." Susan added, "Foster's." She turned to Mitch saying, "Has to be a Foster's in Aussie land, mate." This was definitely a wild woman and Mitch was quickly beginning to like her. She continued sipping her brew. "So, you are here. Diving the reef, are you?" Mitch said, "Not really. I don't dive. Never had the time to do it. I have thought of finding an instructor. But, hey, I only just got here." Susan was laughing. "I like you, mate. Maybe the two of us could hook up for a while. What do you think?" Mitch looked at an amazing woman gazing at him with her head cocked to one side and a warm smile on her face. He was wondering if all Aussies were like this. She said, "Well, your lunch. It's finished. Let's go for a swim. Up to it?" Mitch paid his tab and they headed out towards the beach where Susan pulled up her t-shirt revealing a blue bikini top, then pulled off her shoes and jeans where she was wearing a matching bottom. Mitch had been wearing a white t-shirt that he quickly discarded and followed this vision of loveliness in his white shorts as they were splashing in the surf and swimming in the sea. They swam, splashed, laughed and giggled for what seemed like hours when she finally said, "Mitch, whatever your name. I forgot it. Come up to my place, it's not far away and you can have a proper bath while I cook up some shrimp on my barbie for us. Are you okay with that?" With a look of amazement Mitch said, "Sure. Sure thing. You know. You don't even know me?" Susan said, "First impression is, you are a nice guy. Far away from home. Lonely nice guy. You need me and I'm always right. Never been wrong once." Mitch just shook his head and picked up their clothes. The two walked the quarter-mile to her small house just off the sand where she had pointed out a shower and begun to light a small BBQ pit outside. Stepping from the shower he found Susan holding a pair of blue shorts and another white t-shirt saying as she was gazing at his nakedness, "These should fit. No worries. No boyfriend. Brother's stuff." He left them here. Mitch, having never been shy, dropped the towel on the bed and got dressed. Then the two went outside where she had set two plates on an old weathered table. They sat down and consumed the shrimp with some fries. She had offered him a Foster's that he had gracefully refused, asking for water instead. She had shrugged and had gotten him a glass of water with ice. They quietly ate and after she had asked, "So, where are you headed from here?" "Back to the States." Mitch looked at this woman carefully and then said, "Actually I have a plan of sorts. Not quite complete yet. Thinking of building a sailboat. Not sure where yet. Then hauling goods to the smaller islands. I understand there are needs in that business, the delivery of goods out there." He was pointing at the ocean. She leaned back and laughed. "Wait. You're serious? You really are serious? You are going to build a boat? Is that what you did in the States? Build sailboats?" Mitch said, "No. Not really. I learned to sail around Boston, and I love to sail and always wanted to live in the South Pacific. So here I am and that's my plan." Susan stood up, reaching out her hands. She pulled Mitch to his feet and kissed him deeply, then without a word she pulled him inside. Mitch awoke to sunlight coming through a flapping curtain and turning around was quickly aware of where he was, but no one was beside him, so he got up and pulled on the blue shorts. He went into the next room, where he found a naked Susan humming and frying eggs in a skillet. He noticed strips of bacon lying on a paper towel next to two empty plates on a small table. Mitch said, "I didn't come ready for a visit." She had turned and had a finger to her lips in a shush gesture, handing him a new toothbrush and paste, pointing towards the bathroom. He took the items and returned to where she was waiting. "Sit down. The food will get cold." He sat down and they consumed the meal. After they had finished eating he had asked, "So, what do you do? Work, I mean. What do you do to make ends meet?" He was noting the somewhat bare furnishing and simple decorations, not what one would normally expect of a young woman. Obviously she was living quite Spartan. Susan replied, "If you must know. I was working as a waitress, where you had lunch. But times have been rough and Pete the owner had to let me go. If I don't find something soon I will have to go back to Sydney. My rent here is overdue and I only can stay here for another 2 weeks." Her gaze was on the wooden floor. Obviously she was having some trouble telling Mitch about her issues. Over the next few days the two were inseparable. They swam every day and occasionally took the sailboat out to the reef for a snorkeling session. Mitch had met the landlord. When he stopped by to ask when Susan was leaving, Mitch had slipped him the money to cover her rent. Then it was the end of the month and one evening over a simple meal of barbecued shrimp Mitch had said, "Look. I'm going to Sydney to look for a marina where I can build my boat. Why don't you come along with me and perhaps help with the boat? Or find employment? Whatever, but I would really like to keep seeing you. I've grown fond of you, you know?" Susan with tears in her eyes said, "Oh, Mitch, I thought you would never ask. I think I am. I love you." She threw herself in his arms and they were like that for a while before she was pulling him to bed. The next morning she arose and immediately saw that Mitch was not there. Panic set in, as Susan jumped out of bed running naked into the next room, where she found Mitch plating a simple breakfast for 2 of bacon, eggs and toast. He said, "You might want to put on some clothes. Or suit yourself, you look great to me." A somewhat embarrassed Susan left and returned wearing a t-shirt, but no pants, and sat down saying, "I'm sorry." For a moment there, "I thought you had left." Mitch laughed saying, "No way sweetheart, you are the best thing to come along in this man's life in years. I mean that. Really." Her face was saying she still wasn't sure. He didn't know what else to say. Later she had cleaned everything up and the two had made a couple of trips carrying her few belongings to his boat. Once aboard he had explained the cramped quarters and what was in all the boxes taking up most of the room and that he only had a regular-sized mattress in the aft cabin. Susan had hugged him saying, "No worries mate. As long as you are here I'm fine." Then they were heading towards Sydney and a meeting with her uncle one Jerry Price, who it seemed owned a fishing boat and Susan thought would know of a marina that would suit Mitch's needs.